If you're anything like me, when it comes to playing Commander, you don't necessarily care about winning, you more so just want to do something cool and have fun. You put value into playing one wacky deck that isn't super common over playing a Commander that everyone and their mother has built. This line of thinking has led me to ask the question, what was the least played Commander of the last 5 years? Hi, I'm Harrison, I run these here parts, and without a doubt, Commander has shifted into becoming Magic's special little child in these last 5 years. There always has to be a Mr. Irrelevant. Before I get into the list, it's noteworthy that these cards I mention here are by EDHRec rankings, which considers both their score as a Commander and their score in the 99. There are a couple times here where a card might have more decks than another Commander from the same year, but overall it doesn't get played as often. So we're going year by year. This year isn't quite over yet, so let's start with 2024 and Skoa Embermage. We're coming in rocking with 71 decks on EDHRec. For 4 red, we get a 4/4 Goblin Wizard. When it hits the field, it deals 4 to anything, which makes him essentially an overcosted Flametongue Kavu. It has Grandeur, which is a fancy way of saying this does nothing in Commander. Now, as bad as it is, it's essentially removal out of the command zone, and removal is one of the most overlooked parts of Commander. And while it might seem like there aren't enough moving parts to really break this card, there are a lot of cool ways to play around with it. Red doesn't have a lot of flicker available to it, but it does get temporary tokens. So while this creature won't be an MVP of an episode of Game Nights anytime soon, you can still get really lucky with a Mirror March and win a game. Going to 2023, we have Bill Potts. On his own, Bill Potts only has an astounding 2 decks on EDHRec, where he himself is the lead singer. For 3 in a red, you get a 2/4 human. Whenever you have an instant sorcery or an activated ability only target Bill, you make a copy of that instant sorcery or activated ability, and you may choose new targets. Important that this ability only triggers once a turn. So if you have a massive pump spell, you can double them up, or you can spread the love. I'll be honest, that last line really takes the wind out of this card's sails. This card reminds me of Zada, but Zada does a hell of a lot more. Fortunately for William Potts, he has Doctor's Companion, meaning you can pair him up with any of the Doctor Who Doctors. So he goes from his 2 decks to 110 decks. He's most commonly paired with the 12th Doctor, who specifically cares about copying spells, so he can work directly with Bill Potts copying stuff. So surely these two are a match made in Doctor Who's equivalent of heaven, right? Well, not quite. There are 5 other companions that see significantly more play with the 12th Doctor than Bill. I was hoping to approach each of these cards that I was going to talk about here today with an air of positivity, but it's hard to do when there are just so many obviously better cards than Bill Potts. Moving to 2022, this is the year of Unfinity. Magic's comedy set that's a mix of Eternal legal cards and the Acorn stamp cards, which are not tournament legal. For the sake of this video, I'm interested in the ones that are actually Commander legal. I know you can rule 0 to make any of these cards legal in Commander, but I want these to be cards that you can actually pull up to a game of Commander and there be no argument over their legality. So while there are 10 Acorn stamped cards at the very bottom of the 2022 playables, Roxy, Publicist of the Stars, is the least played legal Commander. For 2 of blue and a red, you get a star 4. She's a human employee with flying. Her power is equal to the number of cards on the field and in the bin with stickers on them. And then when she enters, you get to distribute 2 art stickers. Stickers were such an unpopular mechanic that any card that mentions them have been banned from any format besides Commander. So it's no wonder that a Commander built around stickers isn't popular, but I think stickers being unpopular might be the least of their worries. This is a cool card, and if it was the exact same card but with any other mechanic, I'd love to play it. If this made 2 treasure and checked for the number of artifacts you control, this card would be busted. But with stickers, nobody likes them, and nobody remembers the rules for them. Like, think about it. Unless you're running a stickers deck right now, do you remember how stickers work in Commander? After looking it up, if you want to play with stickers, you need to have at least 10 sticker cards and then randomly select 3 to start with each game. So you can't really strategize which stickers are best for your Commander, because unless you're very, very lucky, you're at most only going to see any given sticker sheet a third of the time. The added part to building a sticker deck is that then most of your deck needs to be devoted to getting stickers into the game from the sticker sheets, which includes ticket generators, because out of each sticker sheet's 10 stickers, 4 of them will require being purchased with tickets. Stickers are a parasitic mechanic. I think it could be neat, but I'm ultimately glad that Magic has locked it up and thrown away the key. And with it being discarded this way, it's kind of a lock that we're never going to see this mechanic again, meaning we're never really getting any more support for Roxy. This deck is as good as it is right now and will never be better. Moving to 2021, we have Kian, Dean of Substance, and Imbraham, Dean of Theory. They're the same card, you just have to choose which side to cast. Coming in with 157 decks, it comes from an interesting cycle of cards that all follow that same theming. You pick one side and cast that. For 2 and a green, you get a 2/2 legendary Elf Druid. Tap, exile your top card. If it's a land, it goes into your hand. If it isn't, it remains in exile with a study counter. Then you can also pay 5 mana to make a 0/0 plant that gets as many counters as you have spells exiled with study counters with differing mana costs. The thing that really makes this cycle interesting, and I think is the big selling feature, is that you can also cast her as Imbraham, Dean of Theory. For 2 blue, you have a 3/3 legendary bird wizard with flying. X blue and tap, exile the top X cards from your library, put study counters on all of them, and return a card with a study counter to your hand. There are a couple big problems I can immediately recognize here. One of which is that neither of these cards is all that great. Kian is very slow. You can run cards that make her produce more tokens or make her plants bigger, but if you're hitting everything on curve, that's tapping out on turn 5 for a 2/2 plant. Imbraham specializes in card selection, but doesn't do an amazing job at that. If I'm spending 5 mana to activate him, I better get something more exciting than looking at 3 cards and putting one of them into my hand. All the while, nothing is really secret. Your opponents get to see each card exiled and which one you took. These cards are resource intensive without a great payoff. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. And going back to the big flashy part of this card, it might be to its own detriment. These cards were cool because you could reasonably have a commander that is one color, but a deck that is 2. If you committed to your deck to only caring about one side of this card, you wouldn't be limited to only running that color. And you could see some benefits for this for Kian and Imbraham. If you were really devoted to one of these sides, you could use blue spells to untap Kian and make it so she studies more, and filter the top of your deck to make sure your plants get big ASAP. Imbraham would also greatly benefit from green's ability to ramp super hard. Both sides of this card greatly benefit from having that other color, but would even further benefit from having the other card. They both care about study counters, but Kian's plants won't benefit from Imbraham studying a bunch of cards, and Imbraham can't pull from Kian's pool of studied cards. At least they can't do this naturally. You can certainly play around and bounce this card back to your hand and make copies and do this and do that, but now you're just adding extra steps to make this piece of garbage work. Ultimately, I believe these 2 cards, along with the rest of the cards in the cycle that they're from, should have been printed as monocolored partner with cards, and the precons that came out alongside this set. This way you could get study counters reliably in more than one way, and you don't need to jump through hoops just to be able to utilize either side at once. Even if these were partners, they probably wouldn't be amazing, but they'd at least be playable. Finishing off in 2020, this was another year with uncommanders, which just naturally float to the back of the pack, so I'll ignore that. We also had the Prismatic Piper, which was invented out of necessity. This would be around the time Magic was releasing a commander draft set, meaning you had to draft commanders in cards that fit into their color identity. So to make it so you don't soft lock yourself in a game of draft, these would be available to anyone to at least give you a chance to play the game. But outside of these outliers, the real least played legendary creature of 2020 was Michonne, who has 422 decks on EDHRec. She's a prime example of a card that had some marginal success as a commander, but no one played this in the 99. For 3 a black and a green, you get a 3/3 human warrior. When she enters, you make 2 2/2 walker zombie tokens. If she's equipped, she must be blocked. If she attacks with 2 or more zombies, she gains indestructible. Naturally, this needs to be a zombie deck, but also an equipment deck, which is then further complicated by it being green and black. Equipment in green and black is a mess. If you're gonna play equipment, I'd prefer to run just about any other colors. Zombies would be really cool though. You can reasonably make a mono black deck that is zombies, and if you're making tokens, green can help you elevate that to the next level. And an interesting side of her is that she's the only zombie commander that is green and black, which should be a great sign for her, because if you want to play these colors, you kind of need to use her. But this also ultimately means that if you're building a zombie commander deck, she's almost never going to the 99, because you're probably just not in her colors, which will ultimately drop her EDHRec rank. This also means that while there is plenty of support for zombies in mono black, there is virtually none in green, which isn't the end of the world, but it would definitely make this deck feel a little topsy-turvy at times. I think ultimately, like the other commanders I've talked about today, there are better options for this theme than Michonne. If you wanted to play a green-black deck, you could go with a different strategy. If you wanted to play zombies and or equipment, you go with different colors. She is just so niche that she isn't even really in an archetype where you could slot her into the 99 somewhere. So now that we've seen these least played commanders throughout the years, have you played any of these? If you haven't, are there any of these that stand out that you think you would play? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video and like to see more videos like this, YouTube thinks you'd like this video that's on your screen now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to bolt your birds.